Hey, how's it going? Today I have a special guest with me, Betsy Foster. She's the founder of Foster Strength and Built Bodies, and she's the host of the podcast Your Strongest Body. She helps women in their 30s and 40s build beautiful muscles, super strength, and unshakable confidence. Betsy and I actually met through our business coaching group, and I'm so happy to have her on the podcast today. Hi, Betsy. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
This is great. For anybody who doesn't know, Betsy actually interviewed me for her podcast, which was so exciting because she did Run Disney Wine and Dine 10K, the Olaf theme, which you all know I missed out on, and I was so bummed. I love Olaf. But I'm so excited. We talk running here on the podcast, not so much strength. My runners know that strength takes a back seat for me. I do the bare minimum that I need to do, but it is not my jam. It's not my favorite thing. So I'm so happy that we can have an expert who likes strength training here to talk all things strength training.
I love that because very similarly, like I would say, I had enjoyed training for the race. Running is my backseat item, and I'll do it. But yeah, that's perfect.
This is a perfect compliment.
Exactly.
For my listeners who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you got into the strength and nutrition coaching that you do now?
Yeah. So I was a lifelong dancer growing up. Did ballet, tap, jazz, all of it. And in that, I was a natural, I wouldn't say natural mover because it took me a little bit, but I was a natural lover of movement. And as soon as it became more innate to me, I was like always craving exercise, craving movement. But that transition post, I'd danced through elementary school, middle school, high school, college. And after college, I went from moving all the time to being really sedentary. And I felt a little lost in where moving my body fit in. And I always say, I had phys ed classes in school, but we never did anything in the gym. We never learned how to strength train. We never learned how to use the machines or anything like that. And so, in sort of that post college period, as I discovered how movement fit into my life, it seemed to be fitness. And on kind of a whim, I signed up for a personal training certification because I knew I wanted to help people kind of move their bodies in a way that gave back, similar to how I felt like sweating and putting in the work fit into my own sort of mental health, physical health, all of that. And so I did that and kind of really liked it. We lived in Manhattan at the time, and my husband and I started working at Equinox. It's a commercial gym. And through that, like going from no experience in this to getting an online certification to working in the field, I ended up pursuing my master's degree in exercise science at the University of Florida. We moved here. I worked in commercial gyms, and then all of a sudden during COVID, the commercial gyms shut down. And I'd had no plan after that. What were we going to do? I moved clients online, and all of a sudden it opened up a world of, I can just access more people, provide more support. That sort of hour for hour kind of changed. And I had clients who I'd worked with 5-6 years prior in New York who now were stuck at home and also wanted to train. So I was kind of reaching people in a lot of different places, and I thought, oh, this is very, very cool. And in that, I got a chance to really hone my own method and my own idea of what I wanted to do to support women, because similarly to to many people, I saw exercise in some ways, as a form to like shrink myself. As a woman, as a dancer, we were kind of encouraged that we were trying to be sort of the smallest version of ourselves, and to exercise if just to burn calories, like that was the point. I felt very strongly that that didn't align with who I was and what I wanted to provide people. And in kind of opening people's eyes to what we could get out of strength workouts, out of actually building muscle so that you can still love the way your body looks. I argue you might like it more than this sort of constant trying to kind of beat yourself down with exercise. Instead, we're building ourselves up. We're creating these strong, capable, fit, beautiful bodies with a more positive spin in the gym. And so that's how I kind of got into working specifically with women 30 and 40, who may have had strategies that were working at 20 years old and who may have a lot of like unlearning to do as it relates to how exercise and how like nutrition, how eating enough, how working out not to feel exhausted but to build your body, what we could do there.
I love that because like the unlearning aspect, it's so true. I mean, I've had to go through it myself. In it, in addition to like the clients I work with or just things that I see online, so many people, mainly women, think I need to exercise to burn calories. Like
Hmm.
calories in, calories out. If I want to lose weight, if I want to look better, if I want my jeans to fit better, I need to exercise in order for that to happen. And it's all of this unlearning because to no fault of their own, like physicians and medical providers are telling them this as well, in addition to the social media and things like that.
Exactly, 100%. Like these are messages that we've just been inundated. Well, once you like start to notice them, you notice them everywhere. And
Everywhere.
yeah, it definitely takes some curiosity about like why do I feel this way, and why have I made the decisions that I've made. And like you said, to no fault of their own, we got to be gentle with ourselves and say, hey, there's a reason why I've felt this way. Now what can I do differently?
Exactly. I mean, growing up, so I am 38 years old. So growing up, like early 2000s, those were my teen years. I vividly remember, and it probably even started before this, like even coming from my own household. Like if we were at the grocery store or, stopping for gas because we'd go on, trips down the Cape in the summer, stop and get gas, go in, use the bathroom. Oh, there's the candy. Literally hearing, you can get that as long as you burn it off later. Those were exact words that came from within my household to me.
Yes.
It's wild that I don't have disordered eating.
Right. So no wonder. Yeah, exactly. That's very
And then,
lucky of you, and like you've done the work for it, I imagine.
and I think I just kind of ignored it. Like, I
That's
don't
good.
like that phrase from an early age. So I'm sure there was some unlearning, like going through. I mean, I remember in college, I wanted to lose, you gain like the freshman 15 or
Yeah.
whatever. And I remember eating salads and being like, yep, this is what I need to eat in order to lose weight. And it's like, ma'am, you're eating lettuce. Like,
Right.
feed your
Right.
body. But that's
No wonder
before I
you
knew
feel
anything.
terrible.
Yes. You're basically eating like a rabbit is. We don't
Yes,
know how rabbits
completely.
feel. Yeah. So how, since we're already kind of talking about this, like how do you recommend women like start unlearning this to make themselves be able to strength train and not think of it as I have to do this because I need to burn off the Snickers bar that I just ate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there are kind of three aspects. One, I lead with the philosophy of like, I want you to electively choose to move your body. So that might mean you like make it a little easier one day, or you pick the kind of exercise you like. I think you should lean into it. If you enjoy running, I think you should run. Do I think that I can like make suggestions in terms of like this will help your running or this will help your sport or something? But I think that people should just like start to view exercise as something that adds to their life rather than detracts, and that it is not a punishment but something that we're kind of giving ourselves back. So kind of like always leading with that. The second one is that I really believe once you start to think about how exercise, specifically strength training, is building your better body rather than like spot reducing. We talk about like fat loss, and we talk about how, oh, I want to get rid of this or I want to get rid of that. I understand where that comes from. I always think of that scene in the Mean Girls movie where they're all picking each other apart in the mirror, and then the girl who has never lived in American society doesn't know what to do because it's culturally conditioned that we like pick apart things. So if we can start to think about resistance training and really like, I know we think about bodybuilding in the sense of like bodybuilding competitions, but when you think about it in terms of like, I can build a body that I really love, that like re-energizes me, that feels strong and helps me do the things in my day-to-day, that I like looking at in the mirror, that I buy clothes that feel good on. Like once you shift that, I think training becomes a lot of fun. I think workouts become more sustainable, and it's like such an add to your life. And then the third thing is probably the nutrition piece and the idea that we're like eating to fuel our bodies. And I mean that in the sense that, like, yes, we want to fuel it for activity, but we want to fuel all the parts of it. So we also want to fuel the joy and the comfort. And it's not just like, let me look at these nutrients and only eat these nutrients. I like to think about food in a really holistic way. But if we are starting to think about how the food we eat helps us train hard enough to see results, and actually like gives us energy, it can feel so much easier to eat. I think people are preoccupied with nutrition because all they're doing is trying to eat less than they did the day before. When you're starting to think about like, how can I eat more food to feel better? And that doesn't mean like it doesn't mean that you're haphazardly eating because you're still thinking about nutrients. It doesn't necessarily mean you're eating more calories. You're just thinking about like more food volume, more nutrients, more energy. And people can see really dramatic strength gains, really incredible fat loss while still aiming to like have a better relationship with food. And I think that really changes the long-term results and the sustainability of the whole process.
Yeah, it make it enjoyable. We don't have to punish ourselves. Unlike what, society may be
Yes.
telling us. Like, we are good people and we deserve to be here and we deserve to enjoy the life that we're building, and that includes the body we're building and the food that we are taking in. So you said something about like, you know, the energy that the food is giving you and thinking about it as essentially nourishing what you want to do and making it enjoyable. So I I'm curious if you do this. Like, do you look at a type of food, any food, could be cake, it could be chicken, like, and think to yourself, oh, that is, I don't know how to phrase this. So the way I look at carbs now,
Uh-huh.
being a Run Disney coach and a runner myself, I look at carbs as, ooh, I can run an hour on that. Like that is what is gassing me up to go and run an
Yes.
hour. You know, I'm a firm believer that like somebody who doesn't want to get up and go for their run, as an example, do they really not want to get up and go for the run, or do they just need some caffeine and some sugar? Right? So like
Yes.
I look at all of this now as, oh, that Pop Tart, that's a great pre-run meal because that's going to give me the energy and the joy, because strawberry frosted Pop Tarts are flippin'
Mm.
delicious. Right? Is that something that
Yeah.
like you do yourself?
Completely. Like the opportunity to go, what am I going to do to maximize this workout? And then I look at a food as a sort of like battery source. Like, okay, this is going to help me provide. I think it's one of the easiest ways to increase your protein intake is you worked really hard in your workout. And what better way to like replenish the tank, especially when it comes to muscle building, then get your protein. And so like I look forward, I think there's a lot of um there's a lot of content out there about like being miserable about trying to reach these goals. And I once you start thinking about it of as like it is just benefiting the activities you like to do. I put in all this hard work. I had a very challenging workout, and if I want these muscles to grow, this is what I am going to eat. And it like makes it more appealing. It like makes me excited to sort of find new foods to meet those needs. Definitely.
Yeah. And also, like you just said, to build these muscles, make these muscles grow. Like if you don't eat that protein, do your muscles grow?
Right. You're missing out. Yeah. All you did was drain your battery, and then you're going to try to do the rest of your day.
And then you're going to be grumpy about it because you didn't
Yeah.
refuel your battery. And it's like that Snickers commercial where it's like,
Yes.
hangry, like grab a Snickers, you know? Like, and maybe in this
Exactly.
case it's not exactly a Snickers, but you need something to replenish that battery.
Exactly. And when you're thinking about doing that all the time, I think you feel less stressed about your food choices because you're thinking it's not about like what is off limits, it's about what you're adding in. And then I think that a lot of people feel a lack of control around food because they're so hungry. When you are like, you know, constantly trying to eat less and less and less, of course, everything is going to like glow when you look at it in the store. Whereas if you're well fueled, then having a bite of this or enjoying this sometimes, it feels lower stakes and you feel so much more, you know, at ease um, and in control.
Yes. And so with that, we're talking about building stronger muscles, eating more. I know that there is fear around lifting heavy and eating more for fear of bulking up. Many women just want toned muscles. They don't want to look like the show bodybuilder, like
Hmm.
on the stage. Is there is is there is that going to happen for the general person?
Right. I totally understand the fear and I want to be empathetic with it because I think sometimes trainers just like really brush it off and it's like no, there's been a lot in the same way that we talked about like all of the diet talk. There's a lot of talk about like, oh, when you do this, you're like not going to look like a woman anymore or something like that, or your muscles are going to look huge, or you're going to balloon or something. And so, like, no wonder you feel that way. What I will say is that for the average person who is beginning resistance training or is following a program who is not taking testosterone, um, who is like training to grow your muscles, it doesn't happen at that speed. it likely doesn't happen because like you aren't training in that way or training at that level of intensity. And it like that is a goal that you have to set out to train for in order to achieve that result. The toned aspect is like I totally understand what people are looking for, and what toned actually ends up being more muscle, less body fat. And I think what people are thinking about is if you were to go in and train and build these huge muscles, but at the same time be accumulating body fat at the same rate, then yes, you wouldn't see that sort of definition that you're looking for. If you are either maintaining or losing body fat at the same time and building muscle, you're going to see a big change. And you're going to feel good too, because it's still helping you get stronger. It's still giving you energy, all of that.
That's great. So what I'm hearing is somebody who's doing those like fitness competitions, which I think and I know because I have had this conversation before. Women, usually with some man in the back of their head saying like, just don't look like that. That takes determination and that to be your goal for that to
Yeah,
happen. Like that doesn't
that's
happen by accident.
definitely not. Definitely not. Exactly. Yeah, there are lots of things that go into it. Either a certain kind of training, either a certain kind of nutrition program, and like sometimes they are like enhanced athletes, and that's why it ends up being that way.
Okay. And so for the general person who maybe strength training is in the back seat, they just want to get a little bit stronger, maybe see some like bicep definition or some quad definition, because those are places, or maybe a few little abs there.
Yeah.
That is something that's more realistic and doable, that they can do at home or at their home gym, not their home gym, but like their local gym.
Mhm.
What would How long do you think that somebody should stick with it to like notice that kind of difference?
I think that's a great question. I think that the challenge with that is like one, I think in leaning toward being afraid of like the bulking process, a lot of women then um kind of go far to the other end of the spectrum, and then they are afraid to lift anything, and they're using weights that are really too light for them. Now, I'll say that everybody's different, so too light for someone is not going to be the same as too light for another person. So I'm not picking on a certain weight. I hate when we talk about certain numbers because like that might be challenging enough for you. But if it's not hard enough for you and it's not creating the stimulus to build muscle, what we're ending up doing is just kind of um, more often than not, like working muscular endurance, or in some cases, it might even be cardio for you. Those are great forms of exercise, but they're not going to do the muscle building part. So, the first thing we have to do is make sure that we're lifting at a difficulty level that fits you and that can actually like build the muscle. And then you got to give it enough time. And so I run a 10-week program, and I encourage people to at least give it the 10 weeks. And it, huge transformation takes a long time. But I promise that if you do these style of athletic bodybuilding workouts and build muscle and build strength, you can see visible muscle definition in that time. And it's the kind of thing where you're like walking by the mirror and you flex a little and you saw something that you didn't see before, which is so cool. And I think like sometimes that feels like a long time, though I would bet many of your runners do not see that as a long time because they are invested in their training and understand sort of the time commitment it takes to reach a big goal. Strength training is no different than sort of like that kind of, it takes a long time to commit to a big goal.
It takes time for a physiologic change, going through
Yes.
physical
Right.
therapy school. And I know you did exercise science, kinesiology, like scientifically, it takes 10 to 14 weeks for muscle to change, just on the cellular level. So
Mhm.
the 10 weeks is perfect timing. Like, yes, of course, it seems short, but seems long all at the same time. Like, we all
Yes.
want overnight change. That's not happening when we're talking about doing hard things. We need
Right.
to give it some time. If we want a quick fix, it's not going to last. That's great. And so you're seeing your clients, like they'll walk by the mirror and be like, "Oh, look, that shirt's a little bit fits different," or, "Oh,
Yes.
jean size is different."
Definitely. Yeah. And they're like, so those are the things that they're catching, you know, in their physical appearance. And then as they're following the program, they're doing these progressive exercises where week to week they're going, "Oh, I lifted, 5 pounds heavier this week. I did 3 more reps this week." So they're seeing their progress all the time, which can be really helpful when you want a physical transformation that's going to take a little bit longer. You need some other tools to make sure you're progressing throughout. And so being able to sort of watch the strength build and then, yes, going like, "Oh, I did not know that that would look like that." And I get many. My clients are not afraid to send me a flexing selfie in the mirror, and I say, "Bring them on, bring them on." I love it. I do it myself, so I am not above it.
That's so awesome. I have my clients send me a sweaty selfie after a
Ooh,
solid workout, after a solid run, and I love
that's
it.
awesome.
I had one client who she had a tiara, and so when it was a good workout, she would send me a sweaty selfie in her crown, in her tiara. So I knew, like, that was solid.
That was it.
And it's so fun seeing those photos.
That's awesome.
So when you talk about making sure that you're lifting heavy for you, so one way, I'm sure there are many ways to do it. One way that I have my clients do it, for their strength testing is, I have them do a 1 rep max test, and then
Mhm.
we make a heavy, a medium, and a light workout schedule based on what they want, based on percentages of that 1 RM. Are there
Yeah.
is that something that you recommend, or are there other recommendations that you like to use?
Yeah, it kind of depends on like a person's experience level and if they like what they have access to. One of the things I'm doing in my program is having people use this idea of reps in reserve. So I prescribe a reps in reserve number, meaning when you are at the end of the set, I want you to feel like all you had in reserve was you could do it 2 more times. If it would have been hard, but you could have done it 2 more times. Then progressively as the weeks go on, they see that that number changes. And then when we're getting to like a more peak week, it's going to say something like 0 reps in reserve, which means I want you to go to the last possible rep you have left in the tank within like reason of safety and things. And I think it allows people to sort of determine for themselves and kind of um it adjusts to if you're having like a low energy day because you're not feeling stuck in like I told you you have to do this weight, which is similar to what you're saying. Is like you have this range, you have this guide, you have this light, heavy, medium. um there are going to be days where like maybe you didn't sleep well the night before, maybe you did have like a travel day or a not a great food um recovery day or something like that, and you have to adjust it. You're going to give just what you have based on how you're feeling that day.
That's great. So you give yourself some grace. We
Hmm.
aren't 100% all of the time And we don't need to tie whether it was a good workout or not based on, did I lift heavier today? Did I do more reps? It was, did I give the all that I had today in this workout?
Exactly. And we know from looking at all of the possible variables that um, that affect your success, more than how much you lifted or how much you're increasing or how little rest you took, that literally consistently doing the workouts is the best dial mover. And I think we get so like fixated on these little details where it's like, if you can allow yourself to have grace one day, to just make the circumstances support you showing up and giving the best effort that you have that day, then the long-term results you're going to have are way better.
That's great. And being consistent, does that mean strength training every single day?
No. I mean, it depends on the person and depends on their goal. Some people train more than others. I always recommend, if you have a physique goal, a physique transformation goal, meaning you want to see a change in your body, especially in your what we call like your body fat percentage, or if you want to your body composition, if you want to see a change, I recommend 3 to 4 resistance training sessions. When we do it that frequently, we actually give ourselves the ability to do fewer exercises within the workout, so we get more quality sets and volume on the muscle groups as we go through. But that's if that is your goal. Then you can definitely do different number of workouts if your primary goal is something else. So maybe you're just using strength training to support a different goal. Then you'd have a different number. But honestly, for women in their 30s and 40s and beyond, the constant, if you're trying to do too many days a week, you're not often, you're either not recovering well enough to see results, or you are not able to push yourself because you are doing too much. So you're going so frequently that the quality of the sets that you're doing aren't enough to create the adaptation we want to create.
Yes. I have a similar conversation with my clients regarding their running workouts.
Mm,
Each running workout has a very specific goal. So, like your long, easy run needs to be long and easy so that you have energy in the tank to go hard on your hard day. And same thing,
exactly.
you need to give yourself a rest day so that you have that energy to push yourself. But if you're going, 5, 6, 7 days a week at 30%, we aren't pushing ourselves enough to be able to make a change, to see a change. And it would be better if you went 3 days a week at 70 to 80% as
Yeah,
opposed to 7 days a week, 30%.
definitely.
I like that. Is it possible for somebody to get a physique change working out at home as opposed to going to the gym?
Definitely. I think it is. What I'll say is that I think there are okay, there are a couple of aspects to it. One depends on how much you want to have at home. Some people are willing to like really load up their home gym. So in that
Deck it out.
case, you can really achieve anything. I also think that you can if you are new to strength training. So I think for a lot of people, you can get great physique results at home in that first even year to 2 years of resistance training. And especially like I don't mean just this is the first time you've picked up a weight. I mean the first time that you've really followed a program, a progressive program. Then I do think there's a point where you probably you you outgrow the weights that you have, or you outgrow the difficulty level that you can accomplish. If you want to keep going, you probably can maintain with that. But I find that when people have created that kind of physique change and built that strength at home in those first year, 2 years, unless it's like really you just don't like the gym, they often have a new confidence, a new ease about going into the gym that you didn't have before. Because I think for a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it can be an intimidating place. And I think it can be a place where you're so concerned, like that you're not doing things correctly. And that, I think a lot of people get in their heads about what they look like in the gym. And I say that with like real empathy and understanding. I believe that others are not judging you. I would like to, I can say that I really believe people are sort of in their personal bubble, but I understand that feeling. And so I think if you want to sort of create some self-efficacy and really feel some results first, you can have a lot of success at home and then kind of transition to the gym. Yeah.
That's great to know because I have heard clients say, "Well, I go to the gym because I I was told by who knows who that you workouts at the gym are nothing. Excuse me, workout at home are nothing.
So,
You have to
mhm.
go to the gym." And I have also heard the other way of I don't go to the gym. I only work out at home because I don't want to be judged. And it's very interesting because in my experience, so I personally don't like the gym. I work out at home, and that is a personal preference. I was
Totally.
part of a I've been a part of a couple of gyms here in Las Vegas, and one of them um it was just too crowded. I literally could never get on a machine
Yes.
or even use dumbbells that I wanted. So I would be waiting around for 20 minutes waiting for something. So that one didn't go. And then the second one I went to, it has two locations here. It is a national chain, at least national. I don't think international. And both times it was actually personal trainers who work at the gym
Yeah.
who were looking for business, who, in
Yeah.
my professional opinion, don't know how to get business and judged me. Because
Yes.
one particular instance, it was a hard run day, so I'd already run on the treadmill, and so on those days I do go lighter, especially based on like where it was in my race schedule. And one of the machines was jammed with the pin, and
Mm.
I like my fingers, so I called them over and I'm like, can you help me with this? And so he helped me, and so he asked, oh, what where do you want it? And so I told him the weight I wanted at, and he goes, oh, that's too light for you. And I just that was the only conversation we had. And I looked at him and I said, you don't know what my strength goals are in general or today. I'll keep it at that one. He's like, well, if you want my advice, you should go this weight. And I said, I don't. Thank you. And then in another instance, the head personal trainer came up to me. I was using one of the cable machines that it's the adjustable arm. I forget, like a Cybex, like adjustable arm
Yeah.
machine.
Mhm.
And this was still when I worked in the physical therapy clinic, and I had a patient who he worked in a manufacturing company, and he got hurt on the job. And the only motion he does, he works on like an assembly line. The only motion he did was like this kind of like start a mower motion,
Mhm.
and but it was like a weird angle. And so I was trying to figure out how can we recreate building
Mm.
strength for that motion,
Mhm.
because we just got cleared to go beyond like the 5 pound resistance bands. And so I'm like trying to figure it out. The personal trainer comes up to me, he goes, I know what you're trying to do and you're doing it wrong. And I looked at him and I
Oh,
said,
my
thank you
people.
so much. You don't know what I'm trying to do, and I'm not
Yes.
doing it wrong. And I'm like, this, like, just, I get it. I wasn't going to hurt myself. Like, I can totally understand if somebody's coming up to me and being like, you're going to break the machine, you're going to hurt yourself. Like, I had it on like the lowest setting it could. I'm like trying to just like, and I was like, no, we are good. I'm going to go back to working out at home.
Yeah, I understand that, and I have watched those kinds of things happen in just the so I understand, and I always say, and this is what I say to people who are kind of looking. If you're looking for a personal trainer, these are the things to look for. I always go, one, I have never once in my 15 years of personal training experience, full-time personal trainer, which the average personal training career lasts less than 18 months. So it could tell
What?
you exactly sort of like, yeah, it's less than 18 months. The barrier to entry is so low. In some ways, like, great, you know, it's just not it's not it's not a great field in that sense. And the uh, I've never offered a piece of unsolicited advice, because what comes from offering unsolicited advice? If someone wants advice, they will ask you. They like that is, and that is also like, I realize people are trying to create, you know, get business for themselves, but like, by being present, by being helpful, by being around, someone might ask you for something, and that person has given you permission to offer that, you know, piece of advice. And then the other thing is, like, some people will ask me like, oh, is that person doing that wrong, or is that form correct or something? And I say, I have no idea, because like, I know what ideal form for every exercise looks like, but I also have enough knowledge to know that due to someone's injury history, due to someone's just anatomical structure, due to their specific goals, due to their, you know, previous difficulties with pain, they may be adjusting an exercise, or any exercise can be used for any goal, and it may look different, and the weight you use may be different, and the range of motion may be different. So if someone has a lot of definitive answers that don't have nuance, they likely don't know what they're talking about, is what I always say. You know, like, it movement is nuanced and requires like thoughtfulness, and requires considering a lot of things. So the know-it-alls, the gym bros, I mean,
Yeah.
that's often not the case.
Yes. I love that. If somebody doesn't have some kind of nuance to the explanation, they likely don't know what they're talking about. That I agree 100%. People ask me all the time, are lunges and squats bad for my knees? I have no idea.
Yes, right.
I have no idea if they're bad for your
Your knee.
knees.
Yeah.
No idea. I can't just blanket statement say, yes, they are. I can say, if you don't want to do squats and lunges, then in my personal opinion, they are bad for your knees because you don't want to do them.
Right. And a
And
good
that's what
coach,
makes it bad.
yeah, somebody's going to have an alternative for you too. Like, if you can't do a thing or don't want to do a thing, I can figure something else out.
I could rattle off 100 other options that we can strengthen your quads and glutes and hamstrings
Yeah.
than doing squats and lunges. Just tell me, do you want to lay down and do them? Do you want them on a machine? Like, do you want elastics? Do you want ankle weights? Do you want dumbbells? Do you want a barbell? You tell me and I'll make it happen.
I'll figure it out. Yep.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say to somebody who says to you, a woman says to you, I just don't enjoy strength training, but I know I should do it?
Mm, that's great. That's a great question. I would say two things. One, tell me a little bit about how you've done it before. What I want to know is like what your experience with is. I think there are a couple of things I think about. I think about a lot of people's experience with strength training either what they've actually done or what they've thought in their head about it is like the CrossFit, throw the weights around as fast as you can. And I know that people like it, and I know people have a lot of success with it. So I don't mean to knock it entirely. I also think like, or like like you've gone to a strength training class that's very like hit focused, maybe where, and I just go, that is not exactly what I'm talking about here. Or maybe I just want to know more about sort of what your experience has been. Or maybe you've been a person who's relied entirely on machines, and maybe you haven't experienced other kinds of exercises. And in my programs and in what I do with individual clients as well, as we do a mix of free weights, machines, barbells, things, kind of addressing, whether the goals of the program or the individual goals. And so I usually tell women, if you let me show you this style of training, this very focused, intentional, challenging, but not depleting style of strength training, where I'm gonna guarantee you are getting wins within that first week of workouts, I think it'll change your mind. You might not love it. It might not be the thing that you're like looking forward to, but you will see results from it. And I think a lot of people haven't liked it because they've like been doing it because they're supposed to, but like, what is this supposed to? I haven't seen the benefits from it. So I typically believe I can make you enjoy it. Doesn't have to be your favorite thing. I wake up going like, I can't wait to lift weights today. That's maybe one end of the spectrum. But I can make it so that you are not dreading that, and that you're actually like, you're aware of how you're like adding to your body bank. You're putting in these deposits, and you can see the return very quickly.
And so for those people who, they aren't really, excuse me, for those women who it probably not their favorite thing, they're maybe not like you and not waking up thinking, oh, I can't wait to pick things up and put things down. Is there, you and I had talked the other day on your podcast about minimum effective dose. Is there like a minimum amount of time they can spend on their workouts to just be able to get it done but still see some results?
Yeah, it is an even greater sort of like recommendation for those heavier weights, because if you can really push yourself, and by push yourself I mean, not like, I don't mean go super fast, I don't mean get super sweaty, I mean work to a place where you are really challenging yourself. I always call it like the edge of discomfort, where you feel like, oh, I just don't know if I can get one more, this is really hard. The When you do that, you're like, you can cut down your time tremendously. There are so many ways in which you can do 30 minutes 2 to 3 times a week and get great results from it. And I think committing to shorter or less frequent workouts at the start is a great way to build a sustainable habit. I had somebody start with me right at the start of COVID. And she was like, I am not going to a gym. I'm not going to a gym when the gyms open back up. Can we do these at home? And I was like, yes, here's what I think you need. And at the time, all the weights were gone. Like, everybody had bought all the weights. So there were no weights. Yeah, couldn't get them. So she had soup cans at home and a couple of like duffel bags, and we filled the duffel bags. She started with 2 20-minute workouts a week, and this past month, she's bought a bench and adjustable dumbbell racks and like all of these things. And this past month, she started doing 4 workouts a week. She'd gone like 2 and they got longer, and we went to 3, and then she's like, can I well, I started with 2 and a bonus, where the bonus workout was just kind of like hovering for you. And I was like, if you feel good go for it. But you don't have to feel, if you're attached to like I know a lot of high achieving women are like, if I didn't get that done, then I'm a failure, you know? So like
Yes.
that bonus
Yes.
was sitting there as like, if I can do it, I'll try. And then she's at 3. And then she's 3 in a bonus. And she's like, I want to do 4. And I'm like craving the next workout. And I went, my work here is done.
Achieved. Goal
Yeah.
achieved.
So I
Yes.
think it's totally possible. And once you start liking something, it's easier. And you may just like, I think, particularly, and I don't want to speak out of turn because you are working with your clients on these kinds of things, but I think if the goal is running the races, then the strength workouts are literally just there to complement and to support, and like they fit in where you need them to go because that is the goal.
Yes. And yes, absolutely. And I just had a conversation with a client yesterday where um they were asking, like, do I need to do strength training? And I said, in this time frame, no. This is a strength training is a
Yeah.
bonus for you. I talk about things in kind of seasons, in phases. And so you have
Mm-hmm.
I have 5 phases of a running journey. And so we have the rest and recovery phase, which is right after a race. Then you
Mm.
have your build phase, which is in the in between time after rest and recovery, but before you start officially training for your next race. Then you have your training phase, you have your taper phase, and you have your race phase. So for this particular person, we're in training phase. So no, you don't have to do strength training. If you want to, we can make it work, but that's a bonus right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it can always be a bonus when we're talking about running, because I have so many runners that tell me, now, of course, I have a background in physical therapy. So that is always on my mind. And that is usually what attracts runners to me, is that background. And they'll say, well, I need to strength train to get rid of my pain or get rid of my
Mm.
injury or prevent injury. And I'm like, I'm probably one of the only physical therapists who's going to tell you that is actually not the case. You can achieve this without strength training,
Yeah.
but they will come to me looking for strength exercises
Mm.
because they're injured or because they don't want to get injured again. And I'm like, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to. Like those chiropractors and those physical therapists 15 years ago who started that marketing campaign that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need all of the strength exercises to not be injured, bless
Mm-hmm.
them, because they did a great job.
They convinced everybody.
They convinced everybody. And now I'm trying to like undo that. But if that's what you
Mm-hmm.
want, that's what you want. And I will give that to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, and I think like in the same way, people on the other side of it are like, yeah, but you aren't having me do a lot of cardio. And I'm like, right, I don't need you to. Honestly, I need you to like move your body more, but that's for that goal. If somebody came to me and was like, I'm going to run a race and I told you not to do cardio, then I would be wrong. You know, like the goal specific approach is really important. And so you have to look for somebody who's going to guide you in the direction of what you want to be achieving
Yes.
and
And
not
for
pushing
it,
their own agenda, you know?
yes. And for it to match. Exactly. Like if somebody comes to me and is like, well, I need to, get a lot stronger and build this physique and tone up and build muscle and lose body fat. I don't have a Run Disney race signed up. I'd say, I am not the person for you. Let's go talk to Betsy, because
Yeah.
that's not happening. But you have to run miles if you want to run a marathon. You have to lift weights if you want to be stronger in
Yeah,
in like an actual muscle strength kind of stronger.
exactly. Right. Exactly.
And it has to match. Yes. Well, Betsy, I want to respect your time because we have been doing this for an hour. Thank you so much. Is there something I will give you a chance to let us know where to find you, but is there something that you'd like to share with the audience that maybe I didn't know or forgot to ask?
I think you asked amazing questions. I think uh they're great. I think like we covered really everything. I wanted the one thing I was thinking about, and this has just been sitting in my mind since we talked the other day, was just about how like when I was at that Run Disney race, I am not a runner. I ran for fun, and I was looking around at all of the people who are like smiling and like excited to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to a race, and like moving their bodies feels good, and they found a way to do it in a way that kind of like matches all their interests. Like the costumes are spot on because you are the people who know Disney the best, and I think like what I want to give people is I believe that resistance training is going to like be so helpful for you in the future. I also think that the best thing you can do is like exercise that brings you joy. And so for so many people, I think you got to find what you like doing, and you got to find coaches who bring that out in you and support you. So like I don't use language about like the workout being miserable. I don't talk about like crushing you or like we wrecked your glutes today. No, like I mean, you worked hard, but it's all kind of thinking about like this that the taking care of yourself as a real positive aspect of this like one life we get to live. And I was just thinking about you and sort of the people you work with and how helping them finish so strong in this thing that's like just a like lovely expression of people being happy and moving their bodies. I think if we were all happy and moving our bodies more, the world would be a nicer place.
It would be a nicer place. Like, that it's exactly right. Like movement can like completely reset your mind.
Hmm.
Whatever kind of movement, lifting weights, be like lifting heavy weights versus going on a 5 mile long run, like it can completely reset and change how you're thinking in that day.
Mm.
And, I love that you don't have those negative comments about, like, oh, I wrecked my glutes today. Yes, you had a good workout. That made me think of something. Does somebody need to be sore for days in order for it to mean that it was a good strength workout?
Amazing question. The answer is no. Oftentimes people are going to be sore in the beginning. And so I think we get a little bit of like an addiction to that feeling. Also, like when you worked hard and you don't feel sore, sometimes you're like, man, what did I do that for? Like I don't have the souvenir to let me know. But if we're training pretty consistently and we're progressing at a rate that's going to keep us like pretty injury free, pretty energetic, not overtraining, then likely it's a really good sign that we don't feel sore all the time. Like the point is not to feel miserable all the time because you worked out.
Yes. And that's why I love hearing that you have the 2 reps in reserve. Use that as your guiding light of, was it a good
Hmm.
workout? Not how sore you are for days later. Can you get up and down the stairs? Can you, do you feel your quads and your glutes every time you stand up from your chair? No, that doesn't mean it was a bad workout. Did you leave two
Exactly.
reps in reserve? That's our guidepost.
Hmm.
I love that. I love that. Betsy, if somebody wanted to learn more about you or what you do, can you tell us where they can find you?
Yes, thank you. I am most of the time on Instagram. I'm at Foster underscore strength. Yeah, I'm there a lot. And my email is, my website is bfosterstrong.com. That's the letter B, fosterstrong.com. And I really post about the programs and the offerings and the info on Instagram, but I also just like the connection. So yeah, by all means, come over and make sure you say hi.
That's excellent. And I will put links of that in the show notes. So for anybody
Awesome.
who missed the spelling of those, go ahead and just go to the link in the show notes. You'll be able to click and it will take you directly to Betsy's sites. Thank you so much, Betsy. This was so much fun learning about strength training.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.